sitting around the house. They walk by, you trip them. No, I'm kidding on that one. No, don't ever trip your spouse.
Hey friends, today's episode is going to be good. We're talking all about how to strengthen your marriage, communicate love in meaningful ways, how to know how to love your children, navigate the messy everyday moments together. You won't want to miss a single word. And I've got a very special guest joining me, and they have got a lot of wisdom that you need to hear. Hey, did you know I have a free community of women just like you? Busy moms going through some of the hardest seasons and trying to get back to a place of peace with God. We share stories, encouragement, and all the latest podcast updates. Come join us on Facebook at Spiritual Growth for Christian Moms, the podcast. See you there. If you're tired of never-ending busyness and taking care of everyone but yourself and want simple steps to feel lighter, have more patience, and pick yourself back up, you're in the right place. Hey, I'm Bethany, a mom, a wife, and a woman who's been knocked down more times than I can count. I learned the secret to how to start showing up and stop failing myself over and over. Spiritual growth. If you're ready for raw connections, biblical truth, and practical ways to grow your faith, take a breath, friend, and let's walk this journey together, one episode at a time. Today, we have a very special guest, Dr. Gary Chapman. You probably know him as the author of The 5 Love Languages, a book that sold over 20 million copies and impacted marriages, families, and relationships all over the world. He has counseled couples for decades, written multiple books, and truly dedicated his life to helping people love each other better. Dr. Chapman, we are so honored to have you here with us today.
Well, thank you, Bethany. I'm glad to be with you.
Me too. Before we jump into everything, can you share a little bit about your background, your family, and what originally led you into the marriage and relationship counseling?
Yes, I live in North Carolina. My wife and I have lived here since we grew up here. And we've lived here except for 5 years I spent in the Chicago area, going to Moody Bible Institute and Wheaton College. And then we also, after we got married, spent 5 years in Texas, going to seminary 2 different times. But we have worked on the same church staff. I have worked on the same church staff for 50 years. And marriage and family counseling have been one of the major roles that I've played on the staff. I've done other things too, directing adult education work and that sort of thing. But we live in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and we have 2 children who are now grown. Our daughter is a medical doctor. She delivers high-risk babies, and our son is a missionary. And we have 2 grandchildren. Both of them have finished college now, and one of them got married 2 years ago, and the other's still single. But that's our background, and I love what I have done through the years. I officially retired after 50 years about 2 years ago, but they let me keep my office and let me keep my assistant, which is where I am now. So if I'm in town, I'm in my office every day, still seeing people. But I am traveling a lot more now and speaking in other places. And so I love what I do, and I love this stage of my life.
I can really tell you love what you do just from when I came and watched your family conference at a church nearby. I heard you speak that whole day, and then the next day I heard you speak at the church service. And just that little bit of time, I can tell that you really do love what you do and you have a passion for it. The 5 love languages, I think most people know what they are, but for any listeners that don't know, can you kind of recap what they are and maybe how you came to the conclusion that these exist?
Yes. I'll never forget the day when it first dawned on me that what makes one person feel loved does not make another person feel loved. A couple came into my office. I had never met them. I found out later they'd been married to each other for 30 years. And after we had talked a bit, the wife said, Dr. Chapman, here's the problem in our marriage. I just don't feel any love coming from him. We're cordial. We don't fight each other. We're civil, but we're like roommates living in the same house. He does his thing, I do my thing. There's nothing going on between us. And I felt empty. And I don't know how long I can go on like this. Well, I looked over at her husband and he said, I don't understand her. I do everything I can to show her that I love her. And she sits there and tells you what she's been telling me. She doesn't feel loved. He said, I don't know what else I can do. I said, well, what do you do to show your love to her? He said, well, I get home from work before she does, so I start the evening meal. Some nights I have it ready when she gets home. If not, she'll help me. After we eat, I wash the dishes every night. On Thursday, I vacuum the floors. On Saturday, I wash the car, I mow the grass, I help her with the laundry, and he went on, and I was beginning to wonder, what does this woman do? It sounded to me like he was doing everything. And he said, I do all of that. And she says she doesn't feel loved. He said, I don't know what else I can do. I looked back at his wife and she started crying. And she said, he's right. He is a hard-working man, but we don't ever talk. We haven't talked in 20 years. He is always mowing the grass, washing the dishes, vacuuming the floors. And I realized here was a sincere husband who was doing everything he knew to do to show his wife that he loved her, and a wife who was not getting it emotionally. And after that, I heard similar stories over and over in my office. So eventually I thought, there's got to be a pattern to this. But I had no idea what it was until I took time to sit down and read several years of notes that I made when I was counseling and asked myself the question, when someone said, I feel like my spouse doesn't love me, what did they want? What were they complaining about? And their answers fell into 5 categories. And I later called them the 5 love languages. I started using the concept in my counseling. If you want her to feel loved, you've got to learn to express your love in her language. And if you want him to feel love, you've got to learn to speak his love language. And I would help couples discover their love language, challenge them to go home and try it. And sometimes they would come back in a couple of weeks and say, Gary, this is changing things. The climate is beginning to change in our relationship. And then I started teaching it in small classes in my church. And the same thing would happen. It was probably 5 years later when I thought, if I could put this concept in a book and write it in the language of the common person, that is, leave out psychological terms that many people would not understand, maybe I could help a lot of couples that I would never have time to see in my office. So that's what motivated me to write the book. And it came out of my counseling, and it's been encouraging to see how it's helped so many couples learn how to express love in a way that meets that emotional need for love on the part of the other person.
When you first thought of this and wrote the book, did you ever think it would be as big as it is and what it is now? I mean, I think people know the love languages who haven't ever read your book. People just know what that is.
Yeah. No, you're right. No, I never anticipated that. I did know it would help people because I've been using it for a significant, as I said, number of years. But I had no idea. And particularly what really, really surprised me was when it went to other countries. It's been published now in over 50 languages around the world.
That's amazing.
And that really surprised me because I have an undergrad and later a master's degree in cultural anthropology, studying cultures all over the world and how they're organized. And I was very sensitive to cultural differences. So when the Spanish publisher came to get the rights to publish it, I said to my publisher, I don't know if this works in Spanish. And they said, well, they've read it and they want to publish it. I said, okay, let's go. It became their bestseller. And then it's just gone all over the world, which That's now awesome. Leads me to think that these languages are pretty fundamental to human nature. Now, I'm sure that what I call the dialects of these languages will be a little different in other cultures. For example, for physical touch, for example, there are cultures where if 2 men know each other and they greet each other on the street, they kiss each other on the cheek on both sides. Well, we don't do that in our culture, but that's a dialect of physical touch in their culture. So it's been very surprising the going into other cultures. But I'm so grateful for the many, many people that this has really saved their marriage. Every time I do a conference like the one you attended, I'll have couples come up and say, Gary, 20 years ago or 15 years ago, we were at the point of divorce and we read your book and it saved our marriage.
I
So
love
you can
that.
imagine how encouraging that is to me.
Yes, I love that. And actually, I want to talk about the workbook that you have with it too. But first, let's go through what the five languages are.
Okay. One is words of affirmation. Another is acts of service, doing something for the person that you know they would like for you to do. There's an old saying, actions speak louder than words. If this is their love language, actions will speak louder than words. So this is such things, as cooking a meal and washing dishes. This is the language the gentleman was speaking that I just talked about, who was doing all those things for his wife. And then there's gifts. It's universal to give gifts as an expression of love. The gift says, they were thinking about me. Look what they got from me. And then there's quality time, giving the other person your undivided attention. Now, in a marriage, I'm not talking about sitting there watching television together. Someone else has your attention. I'm talking about TV is off, computer is down. We're not answering our phone. We're giving each other our undivided attention. And then number 5 is affirming physical touches. And in a marriage, that's such things as holding hands, kissing, embracing, the whole sexual part of marriage, arm around the shoulder, driving down the road, you put your hand on their leg, sitting around the house, they walk by, you trip them. No. I'm kidding on that one. Don't ever trip your spouse. Okay? But those are the 5 fundamental languages. And the basic concept is that each of us has a primary love language. That is, one of those speak more deeply to us emotionally than the other 4. Now, we can receive all of them. We're not going to turn any one of them away. But if we don't receive love in our primary language, we will not feel loved, even though the person may be speaking some of the other languages.
And after I went and listened to you at that conference, I started trying to speak my husband's language, which is actually, so his is acts of service. And I would say that's like one of the bottom ones in my list. And it is so hard for me to think of things to do or what to do for him. So how are suggestions as to, like, if someone's kind of spinning their wheels and really having a difficult time speaking someone else's love language, what advice do you have for them?
Well, the first thing is to identify it, identify their language. And then the easiest way to find out what kind of touches or what kind of acts of service they would like is to ask them. Okay, honey, so we took the quiz or we read the book and discussed it together, and your language is acts of service. So what are the kind of things that would be meaningful to you if I would do them? Or if it's words, what kind of words would be meaningful to you? Now, if they say, well, if I have to tell you, then it's, no, don't go off like that. They're asking you a serious question. So tell them, maybe they grew up in a home where they didn't hear words of affirmation. So they don't know exactly what kind of words that you would be meaningful to you. So just talking about it with each other and asking, what would be the kind of things in that language that would be most meaningful to you?
Okay, I have another scenario here. So as far as asking, but flip. So like if someone wants to ask for their love language to be spoken. So what if a wife is like, I need words of affirmation. Can you please compliment me every once in a while? But the husband didn't grow up that way, and it makes him very uncomfortable, and he can't do it.
Yeah. Well, I'd say 2 things, one for the husband, one for the wife. To that husband who says, that would just feel like it's fake to me. I don't want to do that. I would ask him, what is your love language? What does your wife do that really makes you feel loved? You understand how good that is? How wonderful it is when you feel loved by her? Well, she feels the same way when you give her words of affirmation. And so if you understand that, then you can learn to speak words of affirmation. I understand that if you grew up and you didn't receive words growing up, it's going to be hard. Yeah, you'll have to learn. But the good news is you can learn how to speak these languages. And so, and yeah, it may feel awkward at first. It may feel fake at first. But listen, love starts with a choice, with an attitude. And the attitude is, I want to enrich your life. So if you're telling me that these kind of words would enrich your life, that is, it would it would meet that need in your life to feel loved, then I'm going to learn how to speak those words. And so you can start writing them out first, just short things. Honey, you look nice in that outfit. I really appreciate what you did. Just write out some of those words and stand in a room by yourself and read them out loud until you hear yourself actually saying these words. And then start saying some of them. Just every other day, give her one. And you will learn. And yes, it will feel fake at first. It will feel unnatural at first, but it's like learning another language. After a while, it gets to feel more comfortable with you. And then I would say to her, don't ever start by asking your spouse to speak your language. Start with asking them, honey, I love you, but I want to know what do I do or what can I do or say that would make you feel more loved by me? You see, start by asking the other person rather than asking for yourself. But if you take that kind of approach and you ask your spouse that, and they say, well, honey, to be honest with you, here's what would really make me feel loved. And you say, okay, well, I'm gonna try to remember that. And you start speaking that language, I can almost guarantee you it won't be long before they will say to you, okay, honey, now I'm feeling really loved by you, but now this needs to go both ways. What do I need to do that would make you feel loved? And now she can say, well, if you could give me a compliment, it's compliments once in a while, and then give him some examples of that. You see, most of the time we start at the wrong place. We feel unloved, so we start begging them to speak our love language. Mm-hmm. And they feel like we're demanding that of them, that we're not going to like them if they don't speak our love language. Always better to start in the other direction. The Bible says we love God because God first loved us. That same principle is true in a relationship. Yeah. You love them first, and then they reciprocate because love stimulates love.
Just last night, I can't think of the Bible reference, but my kids they're 7 and 8, and we've been reading a few verses a night in the Bible together. I have them read it. And my daughter read the verse that's like, you can't worry about the speck of dust in your brother's eye because you have a chunk of wood in your own eye. It's kind of an epitome of that too.
Yeah, absolutely. We often see the failures of our spouse far more easily than we see our own failures. And that's why we need to communicate, ask questions, how can I do this better? How can I do that better? How can I be a better wife? Or how can I be a better husband? Or what can I do to help you? What can I do to make your life easier? Asking those kind of questions, and you take that approach and they see how you're willing to reach out and do and say things for their benefit. Love stimulates love. They're far more likely in a little while to start asking you those questions.
And your book also comes with a workbook.
Yeah.
I bought it at your conference, but I have not done it. I read actually a different book in between now and then.
Sure.
But what kind of exercises and stuff is in the workbook?
Well, what that's designed for is you read a chapter in the book, The 5 Love Languages, then you go to the workbook. And that workbook has questions and things related to what you just read. It's helping you apply what you just read. And so it can be done just by an individual, you doing it, and he reads the chapter and he has the workbook and he answers those questions for himself there. Then you can sit down and talk about, what your answers were, what you put down in that workbook. It can stimulate communication. It can also be used in a small group, and it's often used in a small group where everybody has the book and the workbook. And so they answer the questions after they read the chapter, and then they come together in their small group and they're discussing their answers to those questions. Just encouraging each other and hearing each other talk about, how they applied that. So that's what the workbook is all about. Yeah.
That's awesome. And as far as your other books go, you have one for children.
Yeah.
So I kind of wanted to touch just a little bit about the parenting aspect of this, because while husband and wife relationship is obviously very important, I know I have a lot of listeners here that are moms or parents, especially of young kids, and maybe like in the trenches. And me personally, I have 3 small kids, and I think we have more harder days than we have easy days. So, the 5 love languages are the same for children,
Yeah.
but how exactly would we recognize them, especially as an overwhelmed, maybe spread too thin parent?
Yeah. Well, I think there's 3 informal ways to discover a child's love language. The first one is observe how they express love most often to you and other people. For example, there are little children who will run and grab you. They will grab your legs. Like my son's love language is physical touch. When he was 4 years old, when I came home from work, he'd run to the door and grab my legs and climb on me. He's touching me because he wants to be touched. And my daughter never did that. My daughter at that age would say, "Daddy, come to my room. I want to show you something." She wanted quality time. She wanted my undivided attention. So it's there very early in a child's life. And that's the first clue, is how do they respond to you and how do they respond to other people? And then the second clue is, what do they request of you most often? If they say, "Mommy, can we play now? Can we play now, Mommy? Can we play?" They're asking you for quality time. They want your undivided attention. If they say, "Can you give me a hug?" I mean, they're asking you for physical touch. So what do they request most often? And then what do they complain about most often? I had a mother say to me recently, she said, "My 6-year-old son said to me, 'We don't ever go to the park anymore since the baby came.'" He's telling her, "Well, I used to have quality time with you. You gave me your full attention at the park. Now the baby's here and I'm not getting it." So listen to the complaint. And whatever the age of the child, those 3 things can pretty well help you figure out what your child's love language is. Now, you can also go online at the website, 5lovelanguages.com, the number 5lovelanguages.com. There's a quiz there for teenagers. If you have teenagers, they can take that quiz, which will tell them and you their primary love language, their secondary, and right down the line. Now, there are also a series of questions that you can ask a younger child, a child that's not able to go online and do that. But you can ask those questions to them. Give them a choice between 2 things. If I could do one of these, which one would it be? Which would you rather have? And so you can also use that as a tool to figure out a child's love language as well.
I did that, the quiz with my 7 and 8-year-olds. And do you often find that kids are language is gift giving? I mean, I don't know a kid that doesn't like getting presents. And I ran into that, like they both were really high gift giving. And I wondered if it was just because they're kids and kids love presents.
Yeah, I think that could be. I wouldn't assume that, because you're right. All kids like gifts. They all love gifts. But chances are, in real life, they're not necessarily giving gifts. That's a clue. I said earlier, is how do they express love most often to other people, and chances are it's not going to be gifts.
Yes,
it may be
that's
for
true.
some of them. It may be for some of them, but I don't assume that because they always like to receive gifts that they will. That's what they want to. That really makes them feel loved. It does make them feel loved, no question about that. But I throw this into parents. I say, listen, you don't have to give your child everything they ask for. God doesn't do that.
Yeah.
Sometimes I've asked God for things that He didn't do, and later on I'm saying, "Thank you, God, that you didn't answer that prayer."
Yeah.
So we don't give them everything they ask for. We give them what we feel will be helpful to them at that juncture in life. And if the child says to you, "Well, everybody else in my room has one," you can say, "Honey, everybody but you." but I love you too much to give you that because I don't think it's good for you. Oh, so as they get older, they'll try to manipulate you, to get a gift sometimes.
If you
But
love me.
yeah, if you love me, you would do this. You would buy me this. And you say, honey, I love you too much to buy you that because I don't think you're ready for it. So, yeah. So
I think
go ahead.
I think I remember a story too that you had said if that you don't necessarily have to spend money either.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You can pick up a stone in a city parking lot and give it to an 8-year-old boy and say, hey, man, I found this today. Look at the colors in this thing. I thought about you. I wanted you to have it. If gifts is his language, you will find that stone in his dresser drawer when he's 23, and he will remember the day you gave it to him, if that's his language. Now, if it's not his language, he's going to appreciate it, but he won't remember it when he's 23, probably.
Do you think that the kids' love languages affect our discipline with our kids?
I do. I think they have implications for us. It is one thing, for example, would be never use a child's primary love language as your primary means of discipline unless they have created a horrible crime. Because you take the opposite of a child's love language, that's the worst thing you can do for them emotionally. So if physical touch, for example, is their language, and your common method of discipline is giving them a spanking, which was very common when I was growing up. Okay, you give them a spanking physically, hitting their bottom. That's the most painful thing you can do to that child. I don't mean physically painful, I mean emotionally painful. You're taking their love language and you're using it as a method of discipline to them. Or if a child's love language is quality time, and your primary method of discipline when they've done wrong is to say, now you go in your room and you stay in there for 10 minutes and you can't come out. You put them in the room by themselves. That's the most horrible thing you could do to that child because that communicates to them you don't love them. Now, yeah, another child, you send them to their room, they go in there and play. They don't even know they're being disciplined. They just go in there and play for 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. So that's one implication in terms of the love language and discipline. Another thing I think is important is if you can wrap your discipline, whatever it is, if you can wrap it in their love language. For example, let's say their language is words of affirmation. And let's say that little Johnny threw the ball inside the house when the rule was you don't throw the ball in the house. You throw the ball outside. And so you say to him when he's thrown the ball, that maybe broken a vase, you say, hey, Johnny, I love you so much. You almost always obey the rules. I love you so much. But you broke this rule, right? And he's nodding his head. And you remember we talked about if you break the rule, you have to put the ball in the trunk of the car for 2 days and you lose the privilege. So we're going to have to take it and put it in the trunk of the car, okay? Well, he's probably crying by now, depending on his age. But he's nodding his head and he walks with you and you put it in the trunk of the car. And you say to him, but listen, Johnny, I'm so proud of you because most of the time you keep the rules. I love you so much. So you wrap those words of affirmation around, the discipline. Or if it's physical touch, you give him a big hug before you announce the discipline. And then you give him a big hug after you've implemented the discipline. So it communicates because the child needs to feel loved, even though they've done wrong. Listen, all of us do wrong from time to time. But if we wrap the discipline in love, they're far more likely to receive it as a positive thing. They know they deserve the discipline. And I would also say to parents, when you make a rule for your children on what they do or don't do, tell them up front. Now, if you fail to do this, here's what's going to happen. Tell them what the consequences are going to be so that when they break the rule, you don't have to go in there and yell and scream at them. I told you now not to do this. No, you know and they know what the discipline is. So you just now, in a loving way, administer the discipline. Let them suffer the consequences of what they did. So, yeah.
Yeah, I like that, sandwiching it. It makes it so we're not disciplining out of love or they think we don't love them and that's why they're disciplining. We love them and that is why we discipline them, just like right. Us and God.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Now, I wanted to ask one more question before we end. There are attachment styles. There are 4 attachment styles, and I learned about them once at church, and they were really intriguing to me. So I kind of did my own heavy dive into them. So I'm not super educated on them, but I've researched them some. And the 4 types are secure, which you feel safe in a relationship and you can give and receive love well. Anxious, which is where you worry about abandonment and you draw close to your partner. Then there's avoidant, where you pull back from your partner when you feel like things are too close. And then there is disorganized, which is kind of a mix of anxious and avoidant. So my question to you is, do those overlap with the love languages at all, or are they connected somehow?
I think they do interface with the love languages. Uh, and I think we have to take that into account. Just as we do personality differences, personality and the differences as well, we have to take those into account when we're expressing their love language. For example, a person's love language, a person's personality, for example, which may be introvert or extrovert. If they're an introvert and their language is words of affirmation, they don't want you getting up in front of a bunch of people and telling everybody how great they are. They want you to do it in private. And so the same thing is true with what you're talking about, the attachment styles. You think in terms of, now, how would this relate to their love language? Because it might help you know how best to express their love language if you understand their attachment style. So, yeah, I think there is a connection. I don't make that connection in my book, of course, as you know. But, yeah, I think there is. It's very helpful if you understand those different styles. And then, okay, so this is their love language. So now, what implication does that have for how I express that love language? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think they both have been helpful, at least for me. And I'll use my husband again as an example, trying to love my husband. Like, first, I figured out his attachment style. And so I know that sometimes he needs space. I don't ever need space. So it's hard for me to understand that, but I know he needs it. And, now I know he is active service. So my words of affirmation isn't going to do anything for him. I need to be more acts of service. So it is. And like I said before, it is hard to speak a language that's not your language, but we learn.
You're right. And it becomes more natural as the time goes on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like learning another language. It takes you a long time to learn another language. But eventually, the longer you speak it, the more natural it feels for you, Yeah.
Yes. And I really just hope, my hope for today's episode is that we could just encourage anyone that maybe is in a slump with their kids or their marriage, or someone that's really just at their wits' end, or just feels like, what now? What now, God?
Yeah.
Or their love tank is empty. You speak about a love tank. Do you have any final closing words for that particular audience?
Yeah, I think anyone who's struggling in their marriage, the original book has helped many, many couples. And I would encourage, if you haven't read that original book, The 5 Love Languages, that you read it. And then ask your spouse, if it's a woman and she's read it, ask your husband not to read the whole book. Just say, honey, I heard about this book and I've read it, and it's really helping me understand myself, and I think understand you better. And it's sold 20 million copies, so obviously it's helped a lot of people. Would you be open to reading the first chapter and tell me what you think? And most men will read the first chapter. And if they read the first chapter, I can almost guarantee you the next week, and you say, well, honey, how about, would you be willing to read the second chapter? I can almost guarantee you they will. And so you just kind of work through the book like that. So you don't demand them. You don't say, read this book, it's going to save our marriage. Or if you don't read this book, I'm going to leave you. You don't do those kind of things. But I think that would be the starting place. And the same thing true with parents. If you're struggling with your children, the book, The 5 Love Languages of Children, well, you're going to find it very, very helpful. Or if you have teenagers, The 5 Love Languages of Teenagers, it's for parents. And then there is one for the teenager, a teen's guide to the five love language. So imagine if your teenager's reading that and you're reading the one on teenagers, you're going to have some good conversations with your teenager. So that's where books can be not the same as a counselor, but you're getting the insights that that counselors have discovered. So that's why I think sharing a book is what I call it with a spouse. Is when you each read the chapter and ask, what could we learn from that chapter? And you just work your way through a book like that. I think you'll find help and you'll be growing together, whether it's parenting or whether it's your marriage.
And I will say to all of our listeners that he has a lot of books. At the conference, they had them all out in a booth, and there are a lot of them, and they all look good. I wanted to buy them all.
I would throw this one in for parents who have adult children. I've just revised this book. It's called Your New Life with Adult Children. And I deal with all the issues that we face with our adult children. So if you have adult children, you'll find that one to be very helpful.
There's something for them too. And I want to thank you again so much for being here. Would you want to close us out in prayer?
Sure, I'd be happy to.
Okay, great.
Father, thank you for this time with Bethany and sharing life together and she's talking about marriage and talking about children. Thank you for those who are listening and who will listen. And I pray that you would use what we've talked about to help them in a positive and practical way. Thank you, Father, that you want us to have good relationships and you have revealed your love to us and shown us how to love others. So may our lives be improved because we spent this time together talking and listening. In the name of Christ, I pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you again.
Well, you're welcome. You keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Hey, did you like my mom's podcast? Don't forget to leave her a review. It makes her really happy. We like her when she's happy. Mommy.
Say it again.
Hi, Mommy.
Hi, Mommy.
Hi, Mommy.
Hi, Mommy.
Hi, Mommy.
Can you say, I love you, Mommy?
You, Mommy.